that may not know me, I've been actually a BMC client management consultant since 2010. I originally was working with Numara Software as one of the original consultants when they first introduced this product as asset management systems, or it went through a number of different products, but I think it was Footprints Asset Core for the longest period of time before BMC purchased Numara, and it has now a final designation, hopefully, of BMC Client Management, or BCM for short. And believe me, I have customers all the time getting those mixed up. They'll put BMC, BCM, thinking it's the same thing when it's really not. But I've been doing this for quite some time. I've had the experience and the pleasure of working with a number of different companies, ranging from very small manufacturing organizations to very, very large educational facilities, colleges, school districts, where we're talking 120,000 devices that they have to manage. So I've seen the gamut. I've seen individuals where there's only 2 people in the IT department to where there's almost 100 people in the IT department. So this product pretty much lays down well for anybody within that space. We have the opportunity and the ability to easily train those users in the product in a fairly short period of time. So I'm going to go through this slide deck, and we're going to be talking really about what we do and how we can mitigate security risks. How can we feel comfortable where we know that there might be new exploits that are out there all the time, and how can we get ahead of it and not have to chase our tail? So just as a point of reference, I'm having to use a different slide management system. I don't have Office on the box that I'm presenting on right now because I'm actually at a customer location and they don't allow WebEx through, so I'm using OpenOffice. So if my slides look a little hinky, it's because OpenOffice doesn't quite do PowerPoint presentations the same as Office 2016 does. But this slide, know what you have. The whole concept here is awareness, inventory. What are my patch levels at? What is my hardening at? And we can do that in a Windows environment, in a Linux environment, in a Mac environment. Those are the OSs that we actually can put an agent on and manage and pull back data from. So the biggest headache that people have that I hear about is they don't have enough information to be able to do their job effectively. And one of the first things that I tell them during the first week that I work with my customers is that they're going to learn things that they sometimes wish they didn't know. So in reality, you need to know that information, but it's a very revealing engagement opportunity, I guess, is the best way to do it. We do compliance management. We do software deployment. We do patch management. We also have the ability to inventory virtually anything that's on that box. So moving right along. The whole purpose of this is because ransomware was in the news a month ago or so and had hit Europe hard. I just don't know that there was really a lot of reason why it was so successful, because that patch had actually come out earlier, and if people had been ahead of the curve, they would have not been vulnerable to this exploit at all. So the concept is are you utilizing a patch management solution effectively throughout the entire enterprise? And that's what we're really talking about. So what kind of device types do we actually manage? Well, we can do servers, we do desktops, laptops, we even do mobile device management in the iOS space now. We're working on trying to get Android devices under our management umbrella, but because they are a little bit more diverse with the different vendors and the different methodologies, it becomes not quite as easy to build a whole architecture around managing those Android-type devices. But we do have the iOS space covered at this point. We also, a lot of times people don't think of this tool as something that they would want to put down on servers, but the reality of it is we can still inventory and manage those servers very efficiently and very effectively. It's just a matter of carving up those permissions so that the server team doesn't necessarily have to do the desktop team's work, and the desktop team doesn't necessarily have the ability to work in the server space. Now, the smaller departments, one hat fits all, so that when you have a smaller IT crew, they're taking care of both servers, desktops, laptops. I mean, basically, they're it. larger organizations, you've got your systems admins, you've got your desktop support admins, and oftentimes we want to make sure that we secure that so the two don't cross paths. So that's really what we're talking about. What can we manage? And this slide pretty much explains that. So one of the biggest challenges that we have is not really managing the devices that are always on. Servers are typically always available to us. We can patch those on the weekends or during our management umbrella time that we've got, whether it be Saturday at 6 p.m. until Sunday at 2 a.m., whatever that is, we have the ability to go ahead and update those. Desktops, less problematic. Biggest problem with desktops is power management, where the NIC card gets turned off and all of a sudden now, you know, they kind of stay dormant until somebody touches the space key and now they come back to life. But the biggest challenge of all is laptops. So laptops come and go. They get put in people's backpacks. They stay in the trunk of people's car. Some laptops don't ever come back into the WAN environment for, you know, they'll come back once a year at a sales convention, go ahead and have the IT department look at it and bring it back up to date and up to snuff and then send it back out with the sales guy and see him again next year. Well, what we try to do is actually mitigate some of those challenges because we do have the availability of actually managing that laptop device in the wild. And I know that other technologies, our competitors, if you would, are now getting into that same capability. But in my opinion, I believe that we were the first one that actually had the ability to manage laptops in the wild. So how do we do that? Well, it's fairly straightforward. If you take a look on the upper right side, you can see that's our data center, and there's our master server right there kind of popping out. And then we've got a firewall. We've got our DMZ area. We put a relay out in the DMZ. So we have a firewall rule that will allow that DMZ box to talk to our master application server over port 1610 and 1611 by default. And then we create another firewall rule out to the internet that says anybody coming in on 1610 and 1611 can go ahead and come through the firewall and talk to our DMZ relay. So we have it configured so that we can remote control those devices, we can direct access those devices, we can patch those devices, we can push out software to those devices. We just have full capability to go ahead and manage those devices in the wild. That way then any device that is owned by your organization, you realize you're responsible for. So if something bad happens, then it is caused by that laptop out in the wild, and it becomes infected or causes any kind of issue, well, really, that's a story about the organization, not just about that laptop or that one event. So the concept here is making sure that we can bring all of our enterprise assets, whether they be in a controlled environment on our wide area network, down in our local area networks, or out on the internet roaming around. So whenever that device is online, has an internet connection, we have the ability of patching it, updating it, supporting it, doing anything that we need to do to that device. So who were the ones that actually well, I apologize if my audio, I just got a notification that my audio is cutting in and out. I'll try to hold the phone up a little bit right here. So who avoided ransomware? IT departments that were current on their Windows patching. So we pretty much memorized MS-17010 as being the solution that Microsoft came out with to go ahead and handle that exploit. And so who actually was able to, take care of that? Well, there are organizations that use WSUS, SCCM, and other products from Microsoft that try to get out there and patch these devices. Again, those products are good, but they don't necessarily give you all of the feedback and the capability to make sure that all of your devices are actually patched accordingly. So I use this slide right here to show that typically it's a battle. Organizations have to fight over, are we going to be security conscious or productivity conscious? Can we have it both ways? Can we, go ahead and have our maintenance windows? Can we go ahead and reboot the devices? Can we go ahead and get those patches seeded? How often should we patch? Once a month, once a week, once a day? Whenever an exploit comes out, go ahead and patch it. What is our security policies? What can we tolerate without giving up productivity or getting our users used to needing to reboot within a certain period of time, so therefore we can seed those patches and move along our merry way? We've got some organization that always patch a month behind. So if a patch comes out in July, they'll be applying June patches in July. Then that way, then if anything goes wrong and Microsoft issues a version 2 release, then they don't have to worry about having been burdened with the version 1 release that went rogue. Not that that ever happens, but it kind of does. Matter of fact, I've seen more version 2 and version 3 releases in the last 12 to 18 months than I can remember ever having seen before. But the really cool part about that is that our third-party vendor, which is Shavlik, now known as Avante, that acquired Shavlik, actually does some pre-testing before they release those in their knowledge base article. So if they find that in their patch deployment test of the new released patches actually cause breakage, they will not be included in their knowledge base. So I've had customers be extremely thankful in the fact that they avoided that catastrophic event. The one that I'm reminded of last was back in November of last year when Microsoft came out with an Outlook patch that actually broke Outlook. So we had to remove that patch before Outlook would actually run again. And the beautiful part is people that were using BCM never had to experience that problem. So what do we patch versus WSUS or SCCM? On the left side of the screen is all of the products that we have the ability of patching, and they're grouped just in that way. So we patch not only Microsoft products, but a number of third-party vendor products. Notepad++, Nullsoft, EMC, Firefox, Flash, which is great, Real Player, Google. So you can read the list and kind of get an idea that we are not just simply reinventing the Microsoft wheel with WSUS or SCCM. We are actually doing far more and doing it far simpler through our product. So basically, BCM patch deployment, much like WSUS. So this actually sets up where you choose the patches that you want to deploy. You pre-test them with a phase 1 group. Once it succeeds phase 1, then you go ahead and deploy it to either phase 2, which may or may not be all the production boxes. And then phase 3 might be all the production boxes. But you don't need to worry about Active Directory security groups. You can create whatever groups you want, and you do it within client management. So you don't have to start building all of these different policy groups and really spending a lot of time in AD reinventing these security groups and everything else. We do all of the group management directly within client management. Then we have something called BCM patch jobs. Typically, our desktop support people love those because what we do is we set up a series of parameters that says we want to do all of the critical, the important, and the moderate patches, and we want to do everything that's security and non-security related or just security related. And we want this to run automatically on the third Tuesday of every month at 9 p.m. And basically, they never have to touch that interface again. Any patch that comes down, we see it, we actually wrap it up, and now on that particular patch cycle, we'll push it out. There's no more user interference or interaction. The patch admin doesn't have to worry about it. They know that that patch will actually be deployed to all of their endpoints. So you go through a simple little wizard, and we'll actually do that and show you exactly how fast it works. So we also patch OS X, Mac devices. So there's an op rule, and you can set that to run every 2 weeks to force Apple Store updates. You have that capability of doing that. We can patch Linux boxes again using a yum update -y as a command line and just force it. You can obviously be much more specific and select yum security update and only do the security updates. So we have that ability to go ahead and keep those other operating systems patched as well. So I'm going to go ahead and flip right into this demo, and hopefully this won't be too much of a pain. All right, so this is what our solution looks like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, I just got notification. Java came out with a brand new update. It's 141, and I'm behind the scenes. So I've got to, and everything below that's really bad, so I've got to go fix it. So I'm going to go into patch deployment. I'm going to go create a brand new patch group, and I'm going to call this, let's see, single day exploit. Okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and open that up. I'm going to go and look at my pre-installation, so I got no information window there. I'm going to look at that. Oh, that's fine. Reboot. I'm going to say no reboot. There's for Java, I don't really care. And then patches. Let's go ahead and add a patch. And let's see, the product name. Let's go down to Sun Java. And I'm going to say, okay, let's just find anything that's Sun Java. Oh, look, there's a couple of them. So I'm going to add both, one for 32-bit, one for 64-bit. And I've just added that patch. So you can see I'm starting to build that out. So it's going to put it in a wrapper. Now I've got to go ahead and figure out, okay, how am I going to do this? Let's see, I think I've got a device group that I built. Let me check. Oh, immediate patch group. So look, I've got one of those. So let's go ahead and go back into my new single day exploit, go into my assigned objects, my device group. I'm going to add my little device group called immediate patch. Click OK. And I'm going to go in there and I'm going to set the parameters. So here's my scheduling assistant. I'm going to assign immediately. I'm going to push it out. I'm going to start right now because this is, I mean, I want to make sure that everybody gets this thing. Okay. So I'm not going to make any changes. I'm going to go ahead and activate the group. So now the group's active. Well, do I have any devices in the group? Nope. Not a single device. I better go add a device to the group. So I'm going to go ahead and add a device. Let's see, RS Lab. Let's do it this way. I am on this box right here. So I'm going to go ahead and say, go ahead and add it to that box. And I'm going to come back here. Go here, refresh this. Okay, so look, I've got it situated right in here. Oh, don't say that I've already patched that one. I have. So that one's not, that one's part of my patch job. So I'm going to go ahead and assign another device. Actually, let me put it back up here. And I'm going to add my actual laptop. So let's go back to topology, click that. And that's my real laptop. Now I'm going to come back, take a look at my devices, refresh. So I've got a patch count. You can see this is the new box. And it will tell me in just a moment after it analyzes that it needs that patch. I believe. I don't think I'm running. Let's see. Yep. So there's the patch that I need. So 141. And now if I sit and I actually go to, so I always test everything as a good doobie, and now I'm going to do a direct access through the firewall, and I'm actually VPN'd in. I'm sitting, nowhere near this lab. And so here's my hard drive. I'm going to go to Program Files, DMC Software, Client Management, Client, Data, Patch Management Premium. There's a Patches folder. There's a Groups folder. And I should be getting that Java patch coming in here and then being applied. So that's really all there is to adding. I can find all the devices. Once I've tested my new patch out, then I can actually add all of my devices that I want patched, and any of the laptops that might be out, not connected right now. As soon as they check in, they'll realize that they've got to go ahead and get that patch. We'll push it out over the internet or wherever they happen to be, and we'll go ahead and patch that box right away. So the concept is very, very simple, very, very cool. There's no reason for you not to be patched, period. And you can set it up. The other cool thing is we have the ability to say no reboot, let the user control the reboot. How do you actually want to have that reboot take place? We have it set up that if the patch requires a reboot, great, go ahead and then notify the user that at session logout that we're going to go ahead and reboot the box, or remind them that, hey, at the end of 4 hours, you're going to need to reboot your box, and if they don't reboot it themselves, we'll just go ahead and reboot it for them, making sure that we've seeded that. But we can customize the logos on those so that you have the opportunity to see exactly that it's branded by your company so people don't freak out, and it works out really well. Okay, so let's get back up to this and that and move along. So the concept is security. So patching is just one part of it. The other part is when we talk about, you'd be surprised, maybe you wouldn't. I go to a lot of places and I'll find Adobe Acrobat Reader version 6, version 7, version 8, version 9, version 10. Now I've got version 11 in DC. So they're all over the gamut. And I ask, why do you have so many different versions? And they say, well, that's what was on the image at the time, and we have no way of actually updating all of those to the latest and greatest. Well, part of security is making sure that you're running part of the latest and greatest so that you have the capability. Our patch solution does not jump revs when it comes to products like Adobe Reader or Java. We're not going to move from Java 6 to Java 7 or Java 8. We're going to stay within that family from a patching standpoint. So how can we then actually move up full revs? Well, through our software deployment capability and software packaging, we have the ability of identifying all of the different flavors of a particular piece of software, identifying those as targets, and then pushing out the latest and greatest piece of software to those endpoints. So upgrading to Office 2016 is no big deal. Moving to Acrobat Reader DC is no big deal. Moving from Java version Java 7 to Java 8, it's just a matter of understanding how to package and then moving those packages downstream. So it becomes very, very important how we do that. So let me quick give you a demo on something that we do in regards to that. So inside of this box, I should have the ability to go in and take a look at my apps. So I have the icon, well, now it's showing. So let's do this. So inside of my apps, we've got the opportunity of publishing out to our end users software that they can self-upgrade. So one of the biggest things is I'm in the process of using this particular piece of software, or I don't want to learn that piece of software right now. IT departments have struggled in rolling out larger revs because there's an educational moment associated with some of the new versions that are out there. So if you like, for example, you can advertise or publish utilities like 7-Zip. If you want it, go ahead and install it. If you don't want it, don't worry about it. Or a password keeper, if you want to go ahead and keep your passwords in something a little safer than a spreadsheet or something else. Or we even have the ability to go ahead and open up URLs that give you the opportunity of saying, I've got this really buried URL, but I want you to be able to get to it. Well, by just clicking on open, it will actually open up that URL directly, and it makes it very easy. You don't have to keep sending it out in an email, or they don't have to go through SharePoint and navigate 15 different ways from Sunday to get to a hidden URL. I use the annual security briefings that DoD requires whenever you have a clearance, that oftentimes you can advertise that URL, so that way then your end users know they need to go and do their security clearance, and then once they've cleared that up and that security cycle's over, then you can take that published URL down and do it again next year. So the other thing is, like this little timesheet reminder, you can run that, and oh look, there's a little pop-up here. It says, did you need to complete your timesheet for today? If you hit yes, then that too will actually launch a URL, and they can now do their timesheet. So there's lots of cool little tricks and things like that that you can do. But the whole goal here is, how can you easily and simply update end users' products that are out there so that they're running the latest versions? We also have the ability of uninstalling any piece of software by going through and understanding what the uninstall string is and pushing that out to the device. So it makes it fairly simple. All right, let's get back to this. So securing through updating software versions, getting to the latest. Let's not have Adobe Acrobat Reader version 6 out there on 25 devices, because that's a vulnerability. And finally, the last big theme I want to talk about is audits. More and more people have these audits that take place. In some companies, they're in perpetual audits between different types of events. So you've got PCI audit, Sarbanes-Oxley audit. You've got a software vendor coming in and wanting to do an audit. Microsoft wants to do a true-up. HIPAA, are you keeping your Social Securities and your medical records, completely out of public view? So you've got all these different people coming at you from 50 different ways as to, we've got these requirements and we need to validate that you've got these hardened. So how do you get out of audit mode? How do you harden your box, ensure that it's hardened, and pass audits so that you can go on and do, what's really important in life? Well, we have, and a lot of people don't use it to its fullest capability, but we have what we call a SCAP capability within our compliance module. So I'm going to show you that real quick. And let's just open this up. And let's just see. Okay, that's my local box. And let's just see.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
Well, for those that don't know, what is SCAP?
SCAP is a compliance application protocol. So that it's a tool, and I'm going to get into that actually. Okay. But there's a couple of, DISA is a major player in DoD in the SCAP world. USGCB also produces SCAP-capable XML files that you download from them, and then you import into our product. So I'm just going to open up the compliance piece.
And so this is for government agencies then, right?
Not always, no. Matter of fact, anybody who wants to you can use their template and identify how to best harden your device. You don't have to be a customer of the government or being audited by the government. That's a misnomer. If there's a tool out there that can get you from point A to point B faster, I recommend using it. So I've set up several jobs in here by OS. And, for example, Windows 10. So all I had to do was go in there and actually import that SCAP job, go into, well, let's go into the Windows 10 STIG. So you can see I ran that against my box, my actual laptop, and I set it for no profile at that point. It's a XCCDF oval for those of you that may or may not know what I'm talking about at this point, but you don't have to worry about it. We do give you guidance on how to actually run this. So I'm going to look at my results, and you can see that my device did a great job coming in at 39.6. So that means that I failed 122 rules out of 80. Now remember, I'm a consultant, and my box is not a member of a domain. It's a work group. I'm getting no GPOs, and I have to have admin rights because I'm on the road a lot. And so I have to be able to do a lot with my device. So it's definitely not going to do well when it decides to pass or fail. So I can look at it, and I can look at all of the rules that I either passed or failed. So these are all of the ones that I actually failed. So you could go through here and say, oh, you know what, I want to apply that rule into my environment. Or how can I go ahead and set that up so that it would work in my world? What do I need to do? So whether you're government for compliance or just trying to be more efficient in your own world and become more secure, you have that availability. And what we do is we create this really cool report. And this is what we lay down on the endpoint. When we're done actually running it, this is what is left behind. And at this point, you can actually go in there. I'm going to set this for failed. So I'm only going to be exposing those failed objects. And then I can click on any one of these red items. For example, accounts must be configured to require password expiration. Okay, that seems reasonable. Where do I go to set that? How do I do that? So inside of here, I can check for the existence of, these items. So false, all must be true. So basically, I'm looking for this. My required setting is this. My root WMI select name from user account where local true. So this is exactly what needs to be set. And my actual setting here is false. I'm not meeting that value. So that's really where it comes down to identifying. Some of these actually have, I'm looking at this HKey local machine disabled run as, and that key doesn't even exist. So now I can go in there and create this key, and I have the ability to now be compliant in this particular rule for Windows Remote Management. Service must not store run as credentials. Okay, so if I want to secure my environment, I can actually place this. Now I can run that through GPO or client management, again, because a lot of devices don't actually hit the network and you don't have to be joined to a domain. I can actually, through client management, go and set that registry key up on this device. And now when I run this next report, I won't fail in this area. So those are the three major areas that we're talking about where we do patch, and we can run a patch immediately, get it laid down with no wait time, or we can schedule it, and we do third-party patching, and it's not hard to do. We can do it really well. The second part is being able to update your software so that we can identify all of the software that is out of date, not current, and we can go ahead and roll all that up to a newer capability. And the third is in compliance management, ensuring that those compliances that you must be compliant for, we can validate and check against, whether it be through custom compliance or through these SCAP report engines. So at that point, let me get back to my little PowerPoint. And so what we do is, here are all of our different inventory capabilities. We can inventory software, version, make, model, manufacturer, hardware, all of the different capabilities on the box, the security compliance, security checks, security products, which is part of the compliance piece, custom compliance, which means we can look for, monitor serial numbers. I can go out there and put an output of a file to a text file and bring in the results of that. Power settings and logging, I can see exactly when the log-offs, log-ons, computer restarts were for any device. I can look at patches and service packs, what's installed, what's missing. But the really key part is, ever since I've been working with this product, it's been great because I hear so many times war stories about the data's in the application, but I can't get it out. Well, the goal here is to be able to get the data out. What really is out there? What do you need? So what I want to do is quickly show you how our reporting piece works. And I'm at 2:43, so I'm still good. So let's just take a look at a device first. So this is my actual laptop. So when I talked about inventory, so here's inventory. Now this is pretty much out of the box. So here's all of the custom inventory stuff. Anybody here having problems identifying Adobe and what's on there and what their software ID XML file looks like? Well, I've solved that problem. So therefore, from a licensing standpoint, you now have the capability of being able to manage your Adobe licenses, which, by the way, are not fun. The activation types. So how do you know which one is activated versus a trial license? You don't want to get dinged for a trial license or something that somebody started to install but never really finished. So therefore, it's not really illegal. It's installed, but it's not illegal. And then the different license type, volume, subscription, trial. So I can find all of these different values that are in there. And this is all under custom inventory. I can also look at user logons. I can capture that, the exact time that that particular user logged onto the box. Again, that's custom. I can look for particular files, and these are where I actually parse those Adobe files. I can look at hardware inventory. I can look at the BIOS and look at all of that information. So again, hardware information becomes a moot point. A lot of you guys might need, like for example, computer system. Well, this is a Latitude 7480 that I'm actually on. Now I can group and look for everybody that's got that same model. That way when it comes time to retire these models, I can easily identify where they are, who's logged into them, so now I can retire those without really struggling very much at all. Patch. So I can look at all of my missing patches on the box. So you can see that I added the patch, but until I reboot, that patch is not going to go lay down. So that Java patch that I just laid down, it got installed, but because I haven't rebooted and I have the console using Java up and running, and I said no reboot anyway, so I'll have to reboot, then it will come back and actually see that that Java patch was applied, and then it will go away as far as being a missed patch. But you can see I'm fairly current on my patches. And then I can look at my missing service packs, don't have any. We have the ability of actually pushing out creator updates. So on Windows 10, every time they come out with, 1609, 1703, 1805, or whatever that next number is, we have the ability of using this product to go ahead and move those creator updates out to your world. Power management, I don't know that I have anything listed there. Security products, this is all part of our stuff in regards to compliance. But if you take a look at the antivirus, you can see my Kaspersky is listed here, the version, when the last stat file time was, what the last stat file version is, the engine version itself, and whether real-time is enabled. So now I can actually see whether or not, and validate and get an auditor out because I can show them real easily collectively how my antivirus is current, up to date, and real time is enabled. So all those little pesky points for, these different audits that we've got, you can actually show them. And then security settings. We have the availability of looking at a plethora of different security settings, like, for example, account policy. Let me just show you this. This is out of the box. I can actually say the minimum password age. Well, because this is my box, I don't really have a password expiration, but we all know what they should be. But we can actually push this out to all of your endpoints and make sure all of them are getting your policies and verify this. So a lot of times an auditor will do a spot check, but if you can present the data in a holistic form to an auditor, you can get them out in very short order, which people love. And then software. How do we go ahead and take a look at all the different schemes? This is actually just on an individual device. So I can sort by software manufacturer. I can sort by the name. I bring in whether it's an application or it's in add remove programs, and exactly where is it listed. Where is that product loaded? Now, if I do it as a group, because that's what we are, that's the best way to do that. Let's go ahead and open up RightStar Lab and click on inventory for everything, and then go down to software, and then click on scanned applications, and then let's do it by software manufacturer. So you can see Adobe Systems, they don't know who they are. Let's just click on this. And so now these are all of the different by box and by version or product name, the version, all of the Adobe systems that are out there. And I can create a simple report, target these devices, and update whatever I need. So it becomes very, very simple. On the report side, we just did a patch, and then I'll be done as soon as I show you this. Let's see, patch. Let's do this one. And again, we've got, before patching for the change control board, the CCB, what are you going to patch? What devices are going to be affected? And then after the patch, were we successful in applying the patch to all of the servers? So here you got really kind of a good little pie chart moment. You can show them missing patches by product family, and then be very granular. Show each device and the actual missing patches of each one of those product families. So Windows 7 is missing 17 patches on this box. I've got actually Windows XP box up and running, and it needs one patch for .framework. So you can see that you can now submit this to the CCB and say this is what we're going to be running, what we're going to be deploying, and boom, everybody's happy. So this is a custom report that we created. All right, I believe that I am done doing my demo stuff. Let's get back into this. Yes. So Dick, are you still there?
Okay, I'm here. Yeah, hey, great job, Steve.